not speaking, and put your microphone off if you're not speaking, the same. So basically use your camera and microphone only when the moderator or it's your turn, your session, whatever. You will be on air in 1 minute and a half. Me and Maggie, we are gonna, yes, Andrea, I see you have a question, just a few seconds. Me and Maggie, we are gonna put our camera and microphone off, sorry. We will be like ghosts, but we are there to help you. Only through the presenter's chat or by private if we see there's any problem. 1 minute for questions.
Yes, very rapidly, because I've not heard the voice of Michele and of Michelle. So
yeah, I don't know why.
That we can hear them and see them. Michele, can you try, please?
I'm conversation with Michele, but his camera or mic don't work.
Me and Maggie, we're gonna try to write them.
Panel, but we will try to.
And
I don't know.
Excuse me, you are gonna be online in 30 seconds, so please think about a plan B. I know that this sounds a bit rude, but you know, if your colleagues are not able for the moment, you should think to a plan B.
Claudio Catalano, he should be online and.
Claudio, we can hear you, but not see you.
And I can see you. Yeah, I turned.
You are gonna be on in 10 seconds. Good luck. Enjoy.
Yeah, Michele, if you can come back, tell us. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Andrea De Candido. It is a pleasure for me this afternoon to be able to moderate this session of the R&I Days, even if a session that, compared to what was done last year, is held in this very new, totally virtual environment. And we really hope that it will be a success, notwithstanding the impossibility of having any physical gathering. My name is Andrea De Candido, as I was saying, and I am the head of the unit in DG Home of the European Commission that is managing the overall security research program. And this session here today is focusing specifically on Cluster 3 of the Future Horizon Europe, that is the civil security for society part of the program. Before entering in any detail, allow me to stress a minute what is the overall purpose of this event here today. We have the purpose is to prepare for the next Horizon Europe. The purpose is to see how we are supposed to align research with the overall policy objectives in the civil security dimension. On the side of the Commission, we are starting to work on the first work program, and we are very eager to hear from the side of the different stakeholders or from public more at large, what are any suggestions, what are any advice that would be coming up from your side in order to allow us to redirect as needed the work that we're doing in order to make sure that we get it right and that in the end research can effectively have an output. As I was saying, the focus here today is not purely and only on the whole of Cluster 3. We are specifically looking into the specificities of the fighting crime and terrorism and protection of vital infrastructures for Europe dimension. And we're going to make a parallelism with what are the overall objectives that have been set out in the recently adopted new Security Union strategy. We will, in this respect, allow me to stress how our aim is really to look into how to optimize the research process in the civil security domain. What we need to do is to make sure that we bring research out of its own bubble and plug it into a wider development process, which in the end is really aimed at ensuring that research is able to deliver to law enforcement the tools that they need to perform their activity on a day-to-day basis. And this means involving in the process all actors coming from a wide set of stakeholder communities. And as such, I'm really pleased to be able to present you the different speakers that have accepted today to join us in this conversation. So we will have, pending some technical difficulties that are ongoing right now in setting up this panel, Michele Socco, who is a colleague from the European Commission, working in the cybercrime unit. Jeanette Klonk, who is the Austrian national contact point for secure societies in Horizon 2020 and nominated expert for the Shadow Program Committee for the future Cluster 3 of Horizon Europe. Babak Akgar, who is Professor of Informatics and Director of the Center of Excellence in Terrorism, Resilience, Intelligence and Organized Crime Research, CENTRIC. Michel Kadik, who is Deputy Ministerial Delegate for Partnerships, Strategies and Security Innovations in the Ministry of Interior in France. And Grégory Mounier, who is leading the Europa Innovation Lab effort in Europe. I would just ask to have confirmation that I am effectively heard from colleagues. If anyone can jump in.
Yes, I can see and hear you.
Okay.
Thank
you very much, Claudio. Okay, thanks, because I'm missing out a few people here and there. So without any further stealing the scene or going any further, I would give now the floor to the different speakers, and I would start one by one in asking them some questions. The panel will be lasting around 45 minutes, and there would be 15 minutes that would be dedicated for questions and answers coming from the audience. In this respect, I would ask all audience to use the chat that you see on the right side of your screen to put forward any questions you might have, and these will be taken either directly in the chat, or some of them will be selected to be then given to the attention of our distinguished speakers in order for them to then provide the replies. As such, I would start with Michele, not 100% sure that he is right now online. I see his mic going on, so it probably is. So my question for you, Michele, would be, being from a policy unit of DG Home, and having been directly involved in the definition of the Security Union strategy, can you share with us some general aspects of the strategy itself and give us a bit of the flavor of research and innovation in this strategy? Michele. I cannot hear Michele answering. Claudio, do you have? Can you hear anything? But we
don't hear Michele.
We don't hear Michele. So I will. In case, Michele, we manage to solve your problems during the conversation, I will give you back the floor. Just to give a general understanding, the Commission has adopted in July a new security union strategy, which sets out the ambitions and objectives in order to protect the European society along the next years that are coming up, the next 5 years. And what is important in this overall strategy, that apart from setting the objectives in the different dimensions, so setting out exactly what we want to protect, it also brings in research, acknowledging it as a clear pillar in terms of support to the overall effort. This is rather new because in the internal security dimension, by definition, the internal security dimension has been always more reactive than anticipatory in terms of approach, and therefore the possibility now to see that research is there and to see that research is acknowledged as the instrument that allows to work today on developing the capacities that allow to address the challenges that will be popping up in the future is for sure something extremely interesting and extremely also new. Michele, I also see you now online. I don't know if you all
improvements, technology improvement, technology improves as we speak. Thank you, Andrea. I think you said it all. I left my place for a second, and you really stole my thunder. Indeed, I work in the cybercrime unit, in the unit for the fight against cybercrime and child sexual exploitation in digital migration and home affairs, and I was part of the team who contributed to drafting the security union strategy. The strategy. The security union strategy, which has been adopted in July, aims at being a comprehensive strategy. It is, of course, future-oriented. Hence, the importance of research and innovation, as which are the main topics of today's discussions. But it focuses also on the present, because many security actors encounter challenges today. They will not encounter new challenges in the coming months, but they have huge issues to do their work properly today. It's a strategy which encompasses both the physical world, but also very much the virtual life that we all live, and that with the pandemic has proven to be even more important. And it's a strategy which encompasses the whole chain of security, from prevention, detection, investigation and prosecution for law enforcement, which is the area which I personally deal with, and also assistance to victims and response. It's a strategy which sets clear objectives. A strategy which aims to provide security actors in the Union with the capacity to early detect, prevent, and rapidly respond to crisis. And it's a strategy which wants to focus on results. The European Union has a plethora of different instruments to achieve the objectives that we commonly establish for ourselves, and it's a matter to use all these tools and instruments. It's not only legislation, which has always often been the favorite tool for the European Commission, but it's also very much coordination through our agencies. After me, Gregory Mounier from Europol will present, and of course funding. And it's a strategy which aims at linking all players. Now you see that all these objectives and throughout the four priorities that are set in the strategy: a future-proof security environment, tackling evolving threats, protecting citizens against terrorism and organized crime, and creating a strong security ecosystem. All these objectives can be very much read in against the background and looked at against the background of research and innovation. If we look at the strategy, we know what we want research and innovation to do. help us to build the capacity to early detect, prevent, and respond to crisis. We know that research and innovation can be boosted through all the instruments that we have, and again, speakers after me will focus specifically on the work of the agencies on research and innovation. But let me say that one very important action that it's identified in the security union strategy is the possibility of develop a security hub. Europol is very well placed to develop this coordination center that aims at maximizing synergies and avoiding duplication among different security security areas, and of course linking of players, linking the authorities, the final users in the area where I work on, especially law enforcement authorities, with the private sector, among, first of all, within their community, but also with the private sector, in an operational way. We know that data which is held by private entities is vital for investigations, but also very much in a strategic way. And this is really the place where innovation and research find the way that we want to conduct innovation and research is enshrined. Building a strong partnership between the final users and the academia, the researchers, and the industry, of course, which is paramount in safeguarding that strategic autonomy that the security union strategy aims at boost.
Thank you very much, Michele. And you mentioned linking of players, and I would immediately go to Gregory. And Gregory, you are leading the effort in Europol that is aimed at the development of the Innovation Lab. And this, apart from the establishment of the lab itself, is also all about bringing research better into the picture of the work of the agency. Can you elaborate a bit on this?
Yes, thank you very much, Andrea. Can you confirm that you hear me?
Yes, we do hear you.
Very good. So just a quick word of introduction on the Europa Innovation Lab. The member states and the commissions have thought that the European police agency, Europol, should be establishing an innovation lab in order to federate all the efforts from the different law enforcement agencies in Europe to try to make the most of research results, obviously, but also just in general about new technologies. And the main reason is that criminals are more and more using new technologies to upgrade their capability to arm society. So you can look into the field of counterterrorism, where terrorist groups are mastering the use of social media. They are establishing massive digital infrastructure to spread propaganda messages. The same goes in the field of organized crime. The same goes in the field of cybercrime, where really cyber criminals are using AI tools to improve their attacks on system. And so it's that the European law enforcement community needs to make the most of the better tool and the offers that technology, the means that the technology offer in order to combat those threats. And so in order to make sure that public money is well spent, there is also a need to find synergies between the various law enforcement agencies' efforts and to connect with big EU research funding schemes such as Horizon Europe. And that's why I'm really happy to be invited on this panel. That's one of the objectives of the Innovation Lab, trying to, as the former speaker Michele was saying, trying to bring the end users in the innovation and research process. I don't think that the law enforcement community should be active in the field of fundamental research. Our main job is really to catch criminals, and for that we need efficient tools. And for that, we need to use the results of research programs and transform it and uptake the prototype so that we can use those tools in a daily investigation environment. And this is really what we're trying to do with the Europa Innovation Lab, finding synergies, uptaking the result of research and bringing prototypes to a maturity level where investigators around Europe can use them off the shelf and go and use them in order to go after criminals. I will stop here, and I'm happy to take any questions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Greg. And this leads us into the question that I would put forward to Babak now. And Greg mentioned the need to bring, in the end, through research, technology to a sufficient level of maturity that then it really can be picked up and used for the development of tools. You have a long experience in security research programs, and in your role as director of Centric, can you please give us your views on what can research effectively deliver, and what is its enabling power in the security domain?
Now, Andrea, can you hear me?
Andrea, we lost you for some time, so if...
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I will repeat. I was going into the question to Babak and saying that Greg has mentioned the need for research to have an output at a sufficient level of maturity that then it can be really picked up and led into the development of new tools for law enforcement. And this is absolutely important. And Babak, you have a long experience in security research. Can you give us, from your point of view as director of Centric, tell us what can research really deliver? What is its enabling power in really contributing to the overall process in the security domain?
Thank you. I've got the question now, hopefully, and I hope you all can hear me.
Yes, we can, perfectly.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. If I may, very quickly, I build up on the presentation of Michele and also Greg. To me, what research can contribute is bringing those, I call it, hidden area of the problem and challenges in the society, which for law enforcement agencies or those who are directly related to the work pertinent to the security of the Union as a part of the EU Security Union strategy, bring them to operational reality. And I want to give a concrete example to people who are listening to our webinar and presentation. Can you imagine 1 second that during the current crisis, COVID-19 crisis, our digital infrastructure are not working, and people who are using this digital infrastructure to communicate with each other, whether they are first responders, law enforcement agencies, or others, they cannot have a trusted environment to exchange ideas, data, information about citizens or a crisis. What research can do is creating tools, technologies, and capabilities to enabling us to provide a safer and secure societies. If I want to bring more concrete examples, in the past 2 or 3 years, we all hear about this explosion of the artificial intelligence as being the key driver of European economy or future driver of European economy. What research can bring in context of security is enabling for European Union to have a secure borders, to provide a protection of public spaces, to enabling law enforcement agencies to more effectively combating terrorism or organized crime. And the fascinating part of EU Security Union strategy is to bringing all these abstract concepts to operational reality, which each of us can take on board and build our capability based on that. And I'm using illicit drug as an example, combating distribution of illicit drug, child sexual exploitation, firearm trafficking, or 5G security. And if I've got about 20 seconds, another element which is relevant to today's society, and not only for law enforcement agencies, but for all EU citizens. This morning when I was coming to work, it was a huge amount of social media discussion about all sorts of misinformation around COVID-19. And we all heard about 5G, for example, can cause this or the other. What security research can do can create an instrument, tools, and research to fast and rapidly combating this misinformation related to possible crisis. Currently, we're dealing with COVID-19. Tomorrow might be something else. And I think that's a fundamental added value of security research. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Babak, for this very clear explanation. I would move now to Michel. Michel, you are working in innovation in security, and you're working from a national perspective. Can you please, what would you like to see in research? What would member states in general like to see in the future research in this domain? I give a few seconds to see if Michel is with us. We had him here before. Michel, we can't hear you or see you. I will try getting back to you after then, and would move on to Jeanette for the time being. And yes, now we can, Michel. Michelle, I just need to interrupt you because I don't think anyone apart from me is able to hear you. I can hear you very well, but it seems we're getting messages in the chat that no one is any longer able to hear you. I would therefore ask the staff that is supporting us from a technical perspective to see this, because it's for sure not your computer, because I can hear you very well.
I could hear you too, if there is of any comfort.
Okay. What I would suggest is that I just move on right away to Jeanette, and then I eventually give you back the floor to see if our technical team has been able to solve anything, if you agree, Michel. Jeanette, one of the things that Michel was just mentioning now, and I speak on his behalf in function of the fact that many weren't able to hear him, he was speaking about new threats, and he was speaking also about the societal dimension, meaning the need for society at large to be able to take ownership in reality of the different technologies that are being developed in the security dimension, because they have an impact on everyday life of our citizens. You are also coming from a national perspective, and what are your thoughts about the future of security research program with reference also to this societal dimension? Jeanette, I'm not sure I can hear you. I would just ask Claudio to confirm that my question came through correct.
Yes.
Okay. So it's Jeanette not being there right now. I would take this time now even to remind all the audience of the possibility of putting questions to our speakers through the chat. So please do not hesitate to ask anything in the chat, and so that then we can give the floor. We can give the questions to the different speakers and ask them to intervene on the issues that you will be raising. Now I see Jeanette.
Okay, I try again.
And I can also hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I would like to stress out another dimension of security research, that is a societal dimension, as you have already said before. And yes, some of the speakers have mentioned that it's really important that the outcome of security research has an impact, that the research results will be used. And Michel has mentioned that it's important to address the needs of practitioners, but we also have to address the needs of society and the societal impact of security research. Some technologies we are developing, or the researchers are developing, are very intrusive, and therefore it is necessary for researchers also to consider any possible negative impact. But it is also in our responsibility, when we co-design the new work program, that we consider such aspects, or at least to make sure that these aspects will be taken into account thoroughly when conducting research, but also when afterwards deploying novel technologies for security. And I myself, I am not a researcher. I'm just a kind of consultant in a way. But I'm in close contact with the research community, and we had organized several workshops and discussed with several stakeholders from the SSH community, from the social sciences and humanities community, in order to learn what is needed from their point of view. And what I'm going to say today is more or less reflecting the needs of the SSH research community. And so if we are supporting research and innovation in the field of security, we always have to think how this will affect different members of society. It is important that law enforcement agencies or other practitioners will be able to use new knowledge and novel technologies, but it is also necessary to think if these technologies will benefit the society, or if it will have a negative impact on society, if technologies can be misused, or if certain groups of society will be discriminated. And yes, and another important issue is to consider socio-economic aspects that will facilitate, for example, illegal activities or criminal behavior, or in other words, and that is some important aspects that I think we already have implemented in the work program. It is really important to understand societal aspects. And thus, it is necessary to support SSH research in security research in order to prevent or mitigate criminal activities. And in this way, supporting society to become more resilient. And yes, and we, in the beginning, you also pointed out the policy relevance of cluster 3. There's always a political dimension of research, and there's also a political dimension of some criminal activities, of criminal behavior. For example, if certain groups try to profit from spreading disinformation, there's a political dimension behind this, and that's, for example, one field of research. Research is necessary to understand how these groups are working and how disinformation, for example, can be tackled. And this cannot be tackled by a technology solution. This has to be tackled by the societal dimension of security research, and especially by, for example, social innovation. This will finally really improve the results of security research, and it makes it necessary, and this, I think that is a good starting point in Horizon Europe, to involve citizens and to consider the societal dimension of security research and improve the acceptability of security solutions, the trust in security research, and finally, of course, the outcome, the final product of the research. That's from my point of view and from the discussion.
Thank you very much, Jeanette. I would try to give the floor back to Michel to see if he would like to just elaborate very quickly on what he was already addressing, and to verify if the others can also hear him, of course. Michel, are you there with us? I cannot hear Michel speaking right now. This is a bit unfortunate. So I would now, if Michel is not there, take a few questions that are coming from the audience. I see Thierry Hartmann has put forward a consideration, which is if law enforcement agencies want to benefit from innovation, they must be able to justify particular context, in which in some cases will justify the use of very powerful technologies. In others, this will not be possible. This implies that the ELSA dimension must be natively present in
I'm afraid we've lost Andrea. It's Claudio speaking. Can someone hear me? Thank you, Michele. So let's wait maybe for a second. We'll take the opportunity to check whether Michelle is back online. My understanding is that Andrea is starting to come back in. May I please ask the speakers to mute themselves? I hear. So Michelle, are you back online? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't
that's
see
great.
you. But I have the sound.
Yes, okay. So maybe this is a good opportunity for you to come back to the point that you were trying to raise.
Yeah.
Hopefully the other participants can hear you too.
Okay. So I would like to raise 2 points. One is to have a capacity approach, which is quite having a global balance between 4 pillars. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So 4 pillars, which are human resources, technologies, doctrine and training, and legal framework. And the conclusion of that perspective is that if you are missing one of the points, you can have the technology but not able to use that. And I think that when you are launching research, you don't just have to focus on technology, but also on the social aspect, ethical one, for example, to be able to use the technology at the end to have this capacity effect that you are looking for. The second point is regarding the technology of the next level. As you know, the law enforcement agencies are mainly focusing on day-to-day activity, to convince the top management that we have to disturb people from acting every day, but to focus on developing, to invest time, on money, on technology, that this will have a short-term return on investment. And that means that we should focus at our level on the highest technical readiness level in order to be sure that the time and money that we are spending will be used at the end to have a real product, a real progress in technology. And for us, it's very important that the European Commission should give a large part
I think we're having, I don't know if you can hear me now, I was cut out for at least 10 minutes.
Yes,
I apologize terribly for what is happening here. It's quite difficult to continue in this condition. However, I would like now to give the few just a possibility for I apologize with Michel. I don't know if he can hear me, but we couldn't hear
in the Q&A session.
Yeah.
Oh, I see Andrea's trying to come back. If people can hear me. Oh, Andrea's back. I was about to take over of your job. It's all yours.
Can you hear me, Babak? Can
yes, loud and clear.
Okay, good. I was trying to speak to say I was cut out for 10 minutes, I think. I apologize to all for this situation. It's quite unbearable. Was not what we expected, of course. And I apologize again to Michel, but really it was impossible to be able to hear what you are saying. I suggest that we move we take one question from the Q&A session. So to just make use of these few minutes that are there, I see a question from Robert Link, in which he was underlining the statement of Janet and stating that in the cybersecurity strategy, there is a part dedicated to standardization and certification, referring to the Cybersecurity Act. However, the Cybersecurity Act seems to focus only on certification of technological aspects. Will there be also activities in Horizon Europe to foster standardization and certification of non-technological aspects related to trustworthy technology like artificial intelligence? Is anyone would like to take this question? Okay, I don't know if the other speakers are there, can hear us. I can for sure say that we are for sure in our work in preparing the next Security Union, the next Horizon Europe program. We're looking not purely on the technological aspects, we're also looking into processes and procedures. And in this respect, the standardization and certification effort is not purely something that is related to technologies. Of course, standardization and certification intended not necessarily purely as a very formal process, but also as a process which can lead de facto to a certain level of standardization and coordination to be set out. Now, this is something when we're speaking about standardization and certification, is something that is also included, especially in terms of relations with the private sector, that is specifically included in the Security Union strategy. And that demonstrates this cross-cutting approach to the whole issue. We have only 10 minutes left, and then I understand the link will be completely cut. So as such, I would suggest that at this point, I would give the floor back to the different speakers very rapidly and ask one by one, in one word, what you would like to see in the next Horizon Europe program. And I would start again with Michele, and from the policy side, what would you like to see in the next program? What would you like to see? How would you like to see the program supporting your effort? I see Michele coming on.
Can you hear my voice? Test?
Yes, we hear you.
That's great.
One sentence.
I'll also try to answer one of the questions that I see in the chat. Is there emphasis on technology as well as knowledge and processes associated to both development and deployment of results? Yes, that's what we want to see, and that is where the security union strategy puts a lot of focus. There must be a better integration between our funding streams, between Horizon 2020 and of course Horizon Europe, and for instance the funding that we in DG Home have, the Internal Security Fund, for take up, for deployment. We need to maximize the support that we are offering, so that practitioners and users can really make use of the outcomes of research. That is what also connected to what Michel was saying before. Very often research projects deliver outcomes with a TRL, a technology readiness level, which is not for use for its prototype, and we need to better cover that last mile between the research and the actual use. I think that the priorities, the topics where research needs to focus are very well explained and outlined in the Security Union strategy, and I'm of course open to any follow-up, also not in this meeting, but participants are welcome to contact me afterwards for any specific question. And thank you very much to everybody for bearing with us and for your attention today.
Thank you very much, Michele. Gregory, would you like to jump in very, very rapidly and with your general view of what you would like to see in the future research effort?
Yes, thank you, Andrea. I hope that you hear me better now. From our perspective, I think we would like to ensure that there is a coordinated approach between the research community and the end user, a little bit in the same vein as Michele, to make sure that the result of this research project result into actionable tools for the law enforcement community, and also make sure that we optimize the end user's needs in the research cycle. That's really in a nutshell what we are expecting and what we're going to work for.
I see one question that is there, and it's related to the innovation hub that you're also looking at in Europol. How do you see the role of this overarching or this more horizontal entity in facilitating uptake of research output?
I think that the mission of the hub and the main objective of the hub in the short term will be more making sure that we have built synergies between the different fields of internal security, between border guards, customs, law enforcement, so that the different communities are not spending resources on research projects that are similar in silos. I think that should really be the main short-term objective of the European Innovation Hub for Internal Security.
Yeah.
When it comes to the uptake, I think that it's better to be close to the community to adapt the result of research for the actual use of the specific internal security community.
Yeah. Thank you. Babak, one last word from your side. One word to express it all. I'm afraid I can't hear you, Babak. I don't know if the others.
I can hear you, but not Babak.
Okay, so I think we've lost Babak. Jeanette, one last word on your side. I see you again, Babak, so maybe you're able to come in now.
Sure.
Yes,
I was trying to give you a 10 second. For me,
yeah.
Research should underpin innovation for law enforcement agencies as a part of overall ecosystem. That's all. So research is not for sake of research. It should create innovation for law enforcement agencies for operational reality. That's my 2 pence. Thank you.
Thanks, Babak. Jeanette, on your side.
Yeah, and I would like to add research and innovation should also be useful for society as such. Not, I mean, law enforcement agencies are a part of society, of course, but there are other society members that should also profit or benefit from the research results.
Thank you, Jeanette. Michelle, if we can hear you, a 10-second statement from your side. Okay, I can't hear Michelle, so I would like to just, before concluding, we have a couple of minutes left, just to say that also what I take out of this discussion is really a need to look horizontally at what is coming out. And if research has to take into account a number of multiple dimensions, and the output of research has to lead to developments or new activities that are conducted in a number of other environments, there is a need to ensure appropriate synergies amongst all the instruments that are there. I do not think that we need to invent anything new. The instruments are there. There are quite a number of instruments that can ensure to go from the first moment of the identification of the requirement up to the final moment of deployment of a new tool on the ground to be used by law enforcement. We just need to better understand how these instruments need to be coordinated, tied one to the other in a linear process, noting that these instruments will be in some occasions at a European level, but in other occasions will be also at a national level. And this is why it becomes particularly challenging. Having said that, I think we've come to the end of this quite painful session in terms of organization, at least. I really apologize to the speakers, to our guests, and especially to the audience for how this rolled out in the end. Our intention was to have something a bit more interactive, so I really apologize for this. However, I hope we have been able to take out a few elements of the very interesting contributions that the different speakers have been able to provide, and I would like to thank them a lot for their patience and for having accepted to be part of this panel this afternoon. And of course, I think we are all ready to be contacted outside of the frame of this event in order to further discuss any of the issues that have been touched upon during this panel. So again, a very warm thanks to the fellow speakers, and a thanks to the audience for having put up with this, and looking forward to continuing this very interesting discussion in the future. Thanks a lot, and a nice evening to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.
Guys, are we having a wrap up or just leave the session, Andrea?
We can set up our WebEx very rapidly with
Yes, I will do that.
with Claudio.